number 436. We come to this time and this place to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life. To rekindle the flame of memory and hope. Breathing in hope. With every imaginable service being advertised on social media, you would think that local community bulletin boards would no longer be relevant. However, who knew? You can still find them at supermarket entrances. I like looking at them because the patchwork of business cards and flyers represent a snapshot of what local communities are really all about. One of my recent visits to a market, one such flyer caught my eye. It advertised a class on breathing. And as I read it, I wondered if we had finally become so disconnected from our bodies that we really have forgotten how to breathe. Now, I know that biologically we haven't forgotten how to breathe because it's natural to our survival, and we do it 20,000 times each day. There are times when we equate taking a deep breath with summoning courage to do something dangerous or scary. Then, after a deep breath, we forge ahead. Often we say that someone takes our breath away when we are amazed or astounded by them. However, because we live in a culture that emphasizes the number of tasks that can be completed in the shortest amount of time, I think that we have lost the natural ability to slow down and pay attention to our breath. Therefore, we rapidly move from one thing to another without stopping to consciously breathe. We value power and wealth. We reward the famous and beautiful, but vilify the poor and marginalized. So in this context, just the mere thought of a group of individuals sitting around listening to the sound of oxygen moving in and out of their bodies seems kind of silly. After all, there's no fame or fortune to be gained from that effort. Breathing is the only human physiological function which is both voluntary and involuntary. It shifts between the two modes like an alternating current, dipping into both conscious awareness and unconsciousness. Breathing incorrectly can produce tension, exhaustion, and vocal strain, interfering with athletic activity and encouraging aches and illnesses. However, breathing correctly nourishes every fiber of our body and spirit and helps melt away tension, stress, and improves our energy. So, what at first seemed ludicrous began to make a lot more sense to me. The very word spirit is derived from the Latin spiritus, which means breath. And the word breath is linked to the divine life force. In most religions of the world, the word breath is linked to the life force, soul, or spirit. The metaphysical meaning of breath is the inner life flow that pulsates throughout our whole being. The breathing of the manifest man corresponds to the inspiration of the spiritual man. Honoring our breath means recognizing it as a sacred, life-giving gift, often connecting it to divinity, purpose, and well-being through mindfulness, gratitude, and specific breathing practices like meditation or breath prayers. It involves deep awareness, fostering calm, reducing stress, and feeling interconnected with life, transforming an automatic function into a spiritual anchor and source of renewal. Rabbi Lawrence Kushner reminds us that the holiest name in the world, that of the Creator, is the sound of our own breathing. Therefore, a group of people that gather with the intention of mindful breathing has the experience of being connected to everyone around them. Why couldn't this personal experience transform the communities in which we live? Why can't mindful breathing help reduce violence, create a more compassionate, less broken world? To some, I'm sure this idea sounds grandiose, but it's no more so than the idea that a few people had when you answered the ad placed in the paper by Thea all those years ago, and later began to dream of owning your own building, which resulted in the ownership of this very place. It's no more grandiose than the collective vision that we hold as a model for ethical living and right relationships. Unitarian Universalists don't just accept ideas as readily as some others, because we also rely on reason or personal experience. However, embodied experience of transcending mystery and wonder is also among the sources of our living tradition. With that being said, the question is, what kind of direct experience can we actually gain from mindful breathing? It has been said that hope is a dimension of the Spirit because it's within us, not outside of us, and it arouses a passion for possibilities. Breathing alone is a bold act of creation, the creation of hope. Just as a teacher does his or her best and hopes that the enthusiasm for learning lights a fire for reading or mathematics inside of the students. In today's world, we often live and breathe as though we're asleep. So it's entirely possible to pass an entire day without being conscious of the inhalation or exhalation of our breath in much the same passive way. But if we focus on the act of breathing, it clears our minds of distractions and enables us to better connect with the Spirit within. You saw how quiet the children were in just that little amount of time. It's an expansion of awareness and the ability to be awake. And the breath can keep us attentive to the inseparability of creation. I think of mindful breathing as a way of having the power to create my next moment in life. Because when my breathing is on autopilot, it's my physical body that creates the next moments of biological life. The autonomic response forces breath. However, if I'm paying attention, each breath becomes a conscious desire to live, and to live in a way that blesses the world. Maybe if everyone woke up, we would find ourselves extending compassion and care beyond our family and friends to embrace the stranger, and there would be no longer the other. Perhaps a consistent practice of mindful breathing would connect us to the truth that our actions, thoughts, and attitudes impact on the lives of people we've never met. David Eaton reminds us in his composition, A Common Destiny, that all living substance of energy, being and purpose are united and share the same destiny. That includes the people that we love, as well as those that we do not know at all. who are impacted by supporting systems perpetuating racism and oppression. We'll finally awaken to our contribution to destruction rather than life, to despair rather than hope. We'll awake to what William Ellery Channing described as the essential enduring good, that is the health, power, and purity of our own soul. What would happen if collectively large numbers of people began paying attention to the way they breathe? Is it possible that this simple act could repair our broken relationships and create new possibilities on earth? Breathing in the face of hatred and violence is an act of hope. So for us, spiritual awakening must go beyond individual salvation to collective salvation. People of faith must claim our authority to work for the salvation of our families, our communities, and our world. And what is it that we must be saved from? From our self-centeredness, our fears of the other, greed, and the thirst for power, wealth, and everything that keeps us bound to a cycle of exploiting the earth and each other. What would happen if we all woke up? What would we see? What would we hear? We would hear the cries of the voiceless and see the faces of undocumented workers, of unhoused families with food insecurities, people without adequate health care and access to clean water. Then we would all respond with compassion, because we are all connected as one through the breath, as the poet Rumi reminds us in his poem, Only Breath, when he says, and I quote, "Not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I'm not from the East or the West, not out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist, am not an entity in this world or in the next, did not descend from Adam and Eve or any origin story. My place is placeless, a trace of the traceless, neither body or soul. I belong to the beloved, have seen the two worlds as one, and that one called to and know, first, last, outer, inner, only that breathing human being." End of quote. For over 800 years, Rumi's poetry has enabled so many to hobble through hard times, soothing pain that transcends cultural, ethnic, and economic borders. We need Rumi's advice now more than ever because he understood a bit about the unknown. Moreover, with the current state of our fragmented and broken world, one thing is certain: we must come together to awaken through this. Hope is not found in fighting. It is discovered through remembering we are all one. I know that Unitarian Universalists dare to envision a world such as this because ours is a faith that was built by dissenters and grand dreamers. I know this because I have witnessed the compassion of people in this community with faith in action for Family Promise of New Braunfels, Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, the Interfaith Welcome Coalition, and with each other. Ours is a faith that looks for answers to life's most difficult questions in the most unlikely places, as in the wisdom of ancient Sufi mystics, the inexplicable power of love, and even in the way we simply breathe. From my heart to yours, may it be